Okay, we're up to Daf Chav Zayin Amid Beis, the Mishnah on Chav Zayin Amid Beis. So we were discussing yesterday Nedarim of Einstein, Nedarim that come as a person that is an Einis. So therefore, he would make a neder and say that I'm not I'm going to eat by your house, and if they don't come within 30 days, he gets sick, and so on and so forth. So that was the neder wasn't chal at the time. The neder was chal later on. In other words, that's the onus happens at the time of the chalois of the neder. It only will be a neder later on when the Tanai is not fulfilled. Here's a different type of nidrei einstein, fellas. Here is the neder schal right away. The neder schal right away, but the source of the neder is you were forced by an einus. The source of the neder you were forced by an einus, as it says, noidrim laharogin ulacharomin ulamoichsen shei truma. So you have these people, harogin. The Ran says these are robbers. These are armed robbers who will kill you for your money. Haramim are people who are plunderers. They're just interested in your money, but not necessarily will they kill you. And moichsen are tax collectors, and they want your property. So you're permitted to tell them noidrin that this property is truma. You say it's truma. Now you might ask yourself, why should they care? If this guy's grace at tzaddikim, right? They'll kill you. But guess what? If you tell me it's truma, I won't take it. Like, kind of funny, right? So if you take a look at the bottom of the rush, guys, look at the rush all the way on the bottom. I know I have a different Gemara than you. So the rush says Diber Maskal Shishal Truma. Afagav the Katle the Gazle, even though they're killers and Gazlonim, like Achli Surah. They won't eat Issa. In other words, you have people who do certain Averis, but they don't know the other Averis. It's like interesting. It's Inami or else, right? In other words, when you tell them it's truma, it's not worth their while. Guys, truma was dirt cheap. Supply and demand. You had a huge supply of truma, and the demand is very little, very kahanim. So it wasn't worth their while. In other words, they're not tzaddikim. They're not worried about the issur of eating truma, which is misa b'dei shemayim. It's a business decision, right? Why steal something that is not worth anything? It's not worth. Truma has no worth. It's very cheap. We always speak about when you mix truma and chulin together, it's dimua. You're calling yourself to a coin. It cheapens the price very much so. You're mazik your friend by mixing it together. Now what did you do over here? You said a neder that it's truma. We're gonna have to get into that. It's a very funny lashon. You can't make a neder that something's truma, right? You make a neder. So we're gonna have to see the lashon of the Gemara. Anyway, so these three individuals, the harogim, the haramim, the meichsin, you're permitted to go ahead and say it's truma. Alpha Pishen Truma, even though it's not. Or Shahin Shel Beis Melech, Alpha Pishen Shem Beis Melech. You want to steal steal the money, right? You want to steal money? No, you can't steal it. Why? Because it's the Melech's property. It's the Melech's property, and even though it's not the Melech's property, these will be permitted. Can you initiate this? In other words, can you initiate the neder? The guy comes and wants to kill you, and you make the neder, or you tell him. In other words, you tell him it's truma. We're not making the neder, or if he only can go ahead and initiate and make it a neder if he says prove it. In other words, guy comes to kill you, unless you gave me that property. He goes, oh, I'll give it to you, but it's truma. So he goes, okay, how do I know? He goes, I'll make a neder. Or you can just go ahead and make the neder initially, right away, or you have to be prompted. You have to be prompted by the person. So that's machlokes. And everything you can make a neder, with the exception of a shvua. Everything you can make a neder, with the exception of a shvua. Don't make shvuas. Says the top ran. Chutz mishua the chamiri the chsiv bo lo yanake. We had earlier in the Masechta. It's said by the Seres Adibris lo yanake. Kodesh Baruch Hu is not so forgiving a person who makes a shvua. It's among them we spoke out. We said that the world shook when they went. We spoke at the Ibn Ezra. Right, the severity of this is a tremendous thing. So therefore, it's a chumrah of shua. And they say, after shua, you won't be limited to making a neder. You won't be limited to making a neder, but even a shua would be what permitted. Even what a shua would be permitted to go ahead and make. That's one machlokes. Beishami oimim la yiftach loy beneder. You can't initiate the neder. In other words, as I spoke out. If you say it's truma, and then they say, okay, make a neder, that's truma, then you can make the neder. But to initiate the neder without the prompting of the gazlan or the machrim or But the Meichis that you can't do. That you can't do. Beis Hillel says, Af Yiftach Lo, you absolutely you could do it, no problem. Right? Absolutely. Says the Ran Lo Yiftach Lo B'Neder Im Eino Oimen Nadali. Unless the individual told you, yeah, it's truma, swear to make a neder, to me it's truma. Beis Hillel says, Beis Shammai says you can't. Beis Hillel says it's good. So again, Beis Shammai Kedarko is machmir, but only a neder, not a shvua, and you can initiate it. A third nafkamina, right? Beis Hillel, oimer b'mahu v'hizu after third. Beis Shammai oimer b'mashu madiroi, Beis Hillel oimer after masheina madiroi. You can even add on to it. Ketzad. Amaloi, he says to him, Emor koinim ishti nenesli, voina koinim ishti ubnei ubanai nenesli. In other words, you said more. You said more. You know, again, this is just an example. But a person said, make koinim that your wife's also to you. He says, not only my wife, my son, my wife can't have enough for me, my son can't have enough for me. So in that case, Beis Shammai says, Be ishtoi muteres ubana basurim, Beis Hillel oimim elu be'elu mutarim. They both would be what the elu mutarim. They both be what the. We don't say that. That is necessary for the neder. The honest is only one. In other words, all you had to do to get this guy off your back is to qualify. You say it's truma, it's truma. Good. What do you say? This is truma. In addition, you know, the basar and yayin, you go ahead and eat on something. He only asks you to go ahead and make a neder from basar, and you make a neder basar and yayin. Says Beis Shammai, the yayin is a full-fledged neder. There's no honest on that. That you went ahead and yourself you went ahead and said that you went ahead and yourself you said it. That's not an issue. So that's three machlokes, guys. Three machlokes. Says Beis Shammai, this din of getting this harug off your back is only by neder, not by shvua. They still disagree. Next. Beis Shammai says you can't initiate the shvua, only the other person can initiate it, and then you can make it. And thirdly, you can't go ahead and swear more than what. Now, why would you want to do more? Why would you want to do more? Obviously, we want to be more convincing, right? You know, you make a point, make it more convincing. You know, oh, you're only asking me. Guess what? I'll even ask my kid. I'll even only basa listen. I'll add on something. By adding on, it's going to go ahead and be more convincing. Okay, so that would be the svara of Beis Hillel. That'd be the svara of Beis Hillel. Okay. Now it's mashma. This guy's coming to collect taxes, and you want to avoid the taxes. It happens. You know, it's not unheard of. You want to avoid the taxes. Right? The Gemara, how could you avoid the taxes? This is the case of Dina de Malchus Dina. Right? Very, very common thing. So what are we dealing with over here? A tax collector that is going up above board. In other words, there's a set amount of your percentage. He's going above that. So that's called gazela. You know, he's overdoing it. Or another and the Rabbi Yana, this guy is a self-appointed guy. He's just a ganef. He's an outright ganef. Okay, let's see a little bit about this. We'll spend a little time on Dina Malchus Dina. I'll give you a few of the Rishonim over here in this din of Dina Malchus Dina. So first, let's see the Ran. Right? V'amishmul Dina Malchus Dina. The Hechi Sharina Lemedar Hachi. How can you possibly go ahead and swear, make a neder, kedeli potter to get off the hook? Kivin de minadin chayev litel enesemeches. Since this guy is acting within the letter of the law in the Havamina, that you can collect taxes, how can you make a neder to say that it's to avoid it? So the Mari answers, we're speaking about a moicha shen lekitzva. The kivin shekain, since it's not a set amount, lav dinahu. He's not. That's not the din. Ella what? Ella chamsanusa. This is a chomas. This is a robber. The chamsanusa the moichas lav dinahu. That's not the din. Or b'moichas ha'imeh be'elav shalei b'mitzvah melech. That without the king, he's acting on his own jurisdiction. Okay. So what about this dinner? Let's see a little rush over here, guys. In Dina Malchus Dina, she'en lekitzva. Look at the rush. She'en lekitzva. V'hai lav dinahu. The dafke b'dava shu shava l'chol b'nei haMedina yesh le b'shus la'koina lasais. Avaloi b'dava she'en shava l'mayit lezeh u'lerabes lezeh. The whole din of Dina Malchus Dina when everyone's equal footing. But if you show favoritism one way or the other, then that's no longer Dina Malchus Dina. Again, it's not the din for this one this amount and this one this amount. That's not Dina de Malchus Dina. That seems to be not correct. So again, this is one of the things they bring down halacha about Dina de Malchus Dina. If one person is taxed more than another person. Okay, there's a Ran over here that says something fascinating. Listen to this Ran now. The one we started, and now Dina de Malchus Dina says the Ran. Because of B'Taisis, Dibra Masel guys, B'Moiches Oim in the Elov. Because of B'Taisis, the Dafka B'Malchei Oivet Kichavim, Omar the Dina de Malchus Dina. We say Dafka land that's in those guys. Remember, they were owned by kings. The kings in the days of the serfs, right? The fiefs, the serfs. What was that? The medieval times. The king owned the land. Feudal system. He owned the land. He rented out to you. You got a schus of working his land, and you paid him, and you kept some for yourself, right? That was the feudal system. Anyway, so there we say Dina Malchus Dina. Mifnei She'aretz Shaloi. The Oretz belonged to the king. And you're able to say to them, if you don't do what I my command, I'll throw you out. Then we say Dina de Malchus Dina. No matter how great they are, Shloim David, the biggest Malchei Yisrael, loy. You know why? If you say Eretz Yisrael, Kol Yisrael, Shutim Ba. They don't own the land. Everyone in Eretz Yisrael is a Shutif. Everyone in Eretz Yisrael is a Shutif. And therefore, the Chiyamina and Dina Malchus Dina. Okay, so we don't say Dina Malchus Dina. What if only in Eretz Yisrael? It's not a Jewish law. Only Dina Malchus Dina if it's the land. It's the land is on. So I'm responding as America. The land you own your land. In America, you own your land. But again, what are they telling you? If you don't pay your taxes, what will take away your house? Yeah. So they have some type of lien on the land, right? It's fascinating. I mean, this is the again.
It's like a lease payment.
I'm saying again from this Gemara, I didn't do research. I didn't research, but these are two pratim. One in inequity about Dina Malchus Dina, something that's unequal, and secondly, to what extent do the Jews, do the Goyim have a right to go ahead and tax you if in fact he doesn't own you? It's not medieval times. It's not where you own the land. But again, they can garnish your wages for sure. But can they take away your house? I don't know. They probably could do it. They can do everything. Means
I just went to Florida. They can't. There's Florida homestead.
I know. I've been to Florida once in my life. Equity is That's a very, very, very good buzzword. Okay, it's an interesting din of Dina Malchus Dina. Let's finish the Ran. Another thing, in other words, there's two types of tax collectors. There's a guy who bought the right to collect taxes. If he bought that right, then there's a din of Dina Malchus Dina. He bought the right to collect the taxes. Well, we'll call it what you want. If he didn't acquire it, he was appointed to go ahead and collect collect. Yisrael chaver lishava shein truma the leka oinsa kim the dina malchus dina. In other words, you can't swear to avoid it, right? Why? But again, it's speaking about another Jew, because obviously it's speaking about someone who be careful about truma. So you can't swear to avoid it when, right after all, this guy has every right to it. Okay, so that's the first thing. Dina malchus dina. Says the Gemara, we're speaking about a person who's acting shalei kedin, either going above board or self-appointed. In other words, it's not applying. And along the way, we just put in two pitchifgis of Dina Malchus Dina, one of an inequality, and secondly, only in Goyish lands and not in Eretz Yisrael. The two dinim of Dina Malchus Dina. Okay, now the next Gemara is very difficult. It's really difficult because the Gemara is going to say something that I got a pshat. I'm not sure. It's based upon the Ran. It's based upon the Ran, but it's not so posh. It's not so posh about exactly what the Gemara is saying over here. Now, guys, look at the Mishnah. What's the neder in the Mishnah? Guy shows up. He's a highwayman. Guy's a killer, and he says, "Your money, your life." You go, what's your money? He goes, "I have no money." He goes, "Your field. What's your field? All that produce." He goes, "Oh, that's truma." "Oh, that's truma." Yeah. And he goes, "Make a neder." So what do you make? I make a neder. That's truma. What kind of neder is that? You can't make it. It's not. Can't make a neder that's truma. So the Gemara has a problem. What exactly is the neder of the Mishnah? What's the lashon? What are you doing? What are you accomplishing? What does it mean? So says the Gemara, Hechi Nodar. When it says Hechi Nodar, what kind exactly is the neder you're making? The lishna of the Mishnah. What's the neder? Says the Gemara. Amrav Amram Amarav Ba'omer Yesru Peris Ha'olam Alai Im Einan Shel Beis Melech. These Peris of the world are usher upon me if it's not the Beis Melech or it's not Truma. No, it's not Dafka going in the last part of the Mishnah. In other words, I'm answering all the Peris in the world on myself if this is not Truma. Good? So now, let's go through it. Was the guy an honest forced to make this neder? Yeah, he was forced to make this neder. Yeah, totally forced to make this neder. Good? If that's good. So the next Gemara's kasha then is very, 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 very schwer. Read the Gemara. Even the Amma Yesru, it's a Allah called Peri Alma. Once he said this, all the Paris in the world are usher upon him. Why should it be? Right? He just made it right? Why should it be? But guys, this whole motivation for this neder is a guy wants to take it away from you. And he is a killer. And so he's forcing you to make a neder. This is neder einse that's chal right away. In other words, this is not chal if I don't return in 30 days, then there's the chalois and the neder. This neder is the type of honest. It's a neder that neder is now, here and now. So what does he say? This produce, if this produce you want is if it's I'm answering all the payers on the world on me, if this produce is not truma. Fred the Gemara, it's asa. Why should it be asa? I mean, okay, this is the problem, right? You hear the kasha. Okay, here's the way the Ran learns. I'm quoting what I wrote this morning. Listen to this. The Einus can't override what he said beferish if he said l'olam. In other words, I'm answering all the payers of the world, period. If it's truma, what about this lashon? I'm answering all the payers of the world l'olam, and he adds the word l'olam. In other words, no one forced him to say l'olam. He could have simply said, I'm answering all the payers of the world, if it's not truma. And then what would stam mean? Stam would mean l'olam. But he didn't say that. He said the word l'olam. So the Ran's learning in the kasha, since you said the word l'olam that you did not have to say, right? That's not a neder oinus. Neder oinus is that you made a neder, but the neder was limited to the, again, there's a chiddush over here, guys, a huge chiddush. What's the huge chiddush? We're saying you didn't really mean it. We're saying inside yourself, you didn't mean it's truma, correct? What do we say about what you say inside? Dvarim Shebelev and Dvarim. So really, we're really going against the whole yisoid of Dibur, which whatever you say, that is. So what did he say? He could have said the following. He could have said the Paris in the world are asa if it's truma. But he didn't say that. He said the Paris in the world are asa la'olam if it's truma. Here the word oilam. Freg the Gemara, he said la'olam? It's a neder. Let's see the Gemara's teretz then, if that's the case. So says the Gemara, ba'oimer hayoim. You know, he didn't say la'olam. He said, these Paris are asa me today if it's not truma. Good? He didn't say la'olam. He said it's stam. Guys, you want to go ahead, but you want to get the guy off your back. So what do you say? Make an head. The guy tells you make an head. These Paris are asking me today if it's not truma. So what's he going to say? So you're asking yourself for one day? I'm going to believe you with this neder, a limited that it's the middle of the day. You have a few hours left of the day, 4 hours. It's an early Shabbos. I'm going to ask myself to Paris for a few hours. What's he going to say? Big spritz. I don't care. So ba'omer beliboy hayoim. He says beliboy hayoim umoitzi b'svasav stam, and he says stam. He says, in other words, he doesn't say Paris. He doesn't say the Paris of this world are us upon oilam. He says this Paris are us upon me stam. Now, what does stam usually mean? La'olam. But he has in mind what? Hayoim. So when do we say Devarim Shebelev Ein Devarim? Right? That's when what? It's a normal neder. If I would have said La'olam. But since I said it's Stam, and even though it usually means La'olam, and even in a normal situation, without the Einus, it's a normal situation, it would mean La'olam. You said Ayom, we don't care. Since there's an honest there, we'll say what he meant, that Devarim Shebelev have a Devarim, and he meant only Hayom, and it would be Mutta. So that's what the Gemara concludes. Even though we say Devarim Shebelev Ein Devarim, Legabe Oinsin shiny. Legabe Oinsin's different. So let me read to you now what I wrote, and then I'll explain it. I like the lashon over here. If I was writing in art school, this is what I would say. Listen what I wrote. The Oinus can't override what he said beferish. If he said la'olam, it's la'olam. The fact that it's an Oinus can explain what he meant when he left it open for interpretation by saying stam. If you're meforish, guys, this is the way the Ran explains the Gemara. Even b'makam Oinus, if I make a neder that's clear and I say this Paris is asa upon me la'olam forever, even though the situation is one of an Oinus, it would be asa forever. If there was no Oinus, and he would say, this Paris are usher upon me, leaving it open-ended, and there's no onus, we'd say it means la'olam. That's what it usually means. However, adding the factor of an onus over here has the capacity to say, we'll touch up his stam as what? As hayoim. He'll tell you hayoim, it's inside. B'makam onus, we will say, devarim shebelev have a devarim. So therefore, the onus can't go ahead and change something to mefarish. The onus can go ahead and touch up a stam. That this stam is not the usual stam. Stam usually means I won't eat forever. But now, b'makam onus, what will happen? It will touch up the stam as what? As hayoim. It's devarim shebelev. That's what the onus does. I think that's what the Ran explains. That's a good way to fit the shot to tie. It's a very difficult shot to tie, but it's you start the starting point's la'olam. We go to the stam. Stam doesn't help me, but the honest helps me that the stam now becomes hayoim. But of course, you didn't verbalize it, because if you verbalize it, the guy is not going to listen to you. Okay, so that's the case in the Mishnah.
That's part of the onus.
Right?
Because the onus, he couldn't verbalize it.
Because the onus he wouldn't be making in the first place. He wouldn't make it in the first. Yeah, Yanko, what's wrong? You hear the flow, guys. You hear the way it flows now. So the stam, the stam is mean la'olam, but with the honest, it can touch up the olam to mean hayoim. You didn't say hayoim. In this case, b'makam onus, we'll say devarim shebelev. It's a haichacha that devarim shebelev have a devarim. That'll be the shak v'tayv of the Gemara. Okay, Beis Shammai said in the Mishnah, what was the last thing? The three machlokas in whether shvua, whether you can go ahead and initiate it, or then we finally what if you add on. Okay. Just quickly, he has the word banai nenali. The bana basurim. He didn't have to add banai. They're both mutter. Again, based upon what we just said now, right? We understand Beis Shammai a little better, right? But Beis Hillel says obviously he wants to go ahead and okay. Now Amrav Huna, Tana. Now guys, we're gonna have a brisa. The brisa is gonna have two kashas in the Mishnah. What does the Mishnah say? Beis Shammai says you can't make a shvua, but you could make a neder. Beis Shammai says you can't go ahead and initiate a neder. Beis Shammai says you can't initiate a neder, right? But masma shvua you could. Okay. Anyway, says the Gemara. Tana Beis Shammai yoimim lo yiftach lo b'shvua. Now this is a brisa that's a steer to our Mishnah. Our Mishnah said lo yiftach lo b'neder, right? You can't initiate a neder. So Beis Shammai says lo yiftach lo b'shvua. Beis Hillel yoimim af yiftach lo b'shvua. Mashma neder, you could. L'Beis Shammai, so now L'Beis Shammai, shvuhud lo yiftach loy. You can't go ahead and initiate. Ha ben neder yiftach loy. I have a Tanah Beis Shammai oimim lo yiftach loy ben neder. So one kasha, guys, one kasha. Shvu you can't initiate. Mashma neder you could. Our Mishnah says openly neder you can't. So we have a brisa, an inference from the brisa that's fair on the Mishnah. The Mishnah clearly says you can't initiate a neder. The brisa says you can initiate a shvua. Mashma neder, you could initiate. Shver brisa one kasha. The sua second kasha. Miftach hu de lo yiftach lo b'shvua. Hameda neder b'shvua. Mashma that what? You can initiate it, but you could make it. What does that Mishnah say? You can't make a shvua at all. And he says you can't initiate a shvua. Mashma, but if the guy says make a shvua, then you could. Our Mishnah says you can't. So two kashas. One, what's the halacha of neder? What's the halacha of shvua? One, our Mishnah says a neder you could make a neder you can you could initiate a neder. Mashma the brisa you could initiate a neder. Our Mishnah says shvua b'chlal not, and is mashma that what shvua you could as long as you don't initiate. It says the Gemara no. Our Mishnah is correct, guys. Our Mishnah is correct. No shvua, no yes neder. We learn neder to say the koyach Beis Shammai. The Beis Shammai says you can initiate a neder, but Beis Hillel says you could. That even shvua you could. So again, our Mishnah is correct. Beis Shammai says the following. Beis Shammai says you can make any shvua, but it can't be pasech b'neder. And the brisa is Mishnah is telling us the brisa is saying that what the koyach of Beis Shammai that shvua neder not the koyach right of Beis Shammai, right? The koyach of Beis Shammai that neder you should not initiate with. That's what our Mishnah says, and the brisa tells us what that afilu what afilu shvua you could afilu shvua you're able to go ahead and initiate. Rashi says, guys, no kasha at all. What in our brisa? How are we touching up the brisa? Whether you can initiate at all. What about you touch the brisa the following? You can't have a pesach for a shvua. In other words, we're not speaking about this scenario of pesach. We're speaking about a totally different din. We're speaking about the din of hatara, looking for an excuse. If you have a shvua, that's it. You're stuck with the shvua. You can't take it off. La yiftach loy. Besdin, don't look for a pesach for him. It's not speaking about whether we'll let you initiate it in a scenario where you have an honest or not. It's speaking about a whole different din. This is what the Bryce is saying. Beis Shammai Oimrim, when it says that ein lo yiftach le b'shvua, ein shoylim b'shvua. You do not go ahead and take off a shvua. That's it. All the charata pesach doesn't exist by shvua according to Beis Shammai. With Saloimim, yesh sheila b'shvua. The mailing says no shaykhs to a steer in our Mishnah. Our Mishnah is speaking about what? Whether in a scenario where it's an honest, can you initiate a neder? Can you initiate a shvua? Yeah, that's one din. That price that spoke about making a pesach to take it off. It's not speaking about initiation in the scenario what of oinus. Totally different ballpark, and therefore it's not shver at all. Therefore it's not shver. Okay, next Mishnah, a very cryptic Mishnah. I find the Nedarim. I said to my Chavus this morning. The Nedarim, everything's. It's not only Mishnah. The Mishnayos. You need the Gemara to explain the Mishnayos. They're very, very. I don't. Without the Gemara, it's very hard to Masechta. It really is very, very. What?
We have the Ran.
What? The Ran. Yeah, you have Baruch Hashem, you have the Ran, but it's very long. When you look at a blot, you look at these small blot like this. You say, "Chavtes." You say, turn the page, guys." You look at the term and say, "Oh, this is great." I turn the page. I say, "Uh-oh." That's right. Like a. Anyway. And I gladly do it. Okay, weiter. Says the Mishnah. Harinitia se'elu carbon. These saplings, what's growing on the tree, these branches, they're a carbon, right? Im eina niktzatzais, if they don't get cut off. Mashma, if they get cut off, they're not a carbon. Guess what? Yeah. Okay. If they stay on the tree, they are a carbon. If they get cut off, they're not a carbon. Now, everything eventually is going to get cut off, correct? So that is a moot point.
Right now.
Now, we began the Masechta, fellas, saying there's two types of Nedarim. There's Nidrei Iser and Nidrei Hegdish. Good? Nidrei Iser and Nidrei Hegdish. So if you say this should be like a carbon, it's not a carbon, it's like a carbon. That's Nidrei Iser. Just like a carbon's Asa, this is Asa. If you say it is a carbon, then you are making it Hegdish. That's Nidrei Hegdish. That's Nidrei Hegdish. You're saying it's, and you're saying, in other words, I'm going to go ahead and sell it and buy a carbon. So the man says there's two ways to learn this Mishnah. Even though the Mishnah, the Masechta is speaking predominantly about Nidrei Isser, this could even speak about Nidrei Hegdish. Right? You had two ways to learn, guys. If it's this tree should be like a carbon, so all you're doing, you're being matfis in a dava another carbon. It's Nidrei Isser. There's no Hegdish to it whatsoever. If you're saying this tree is a carbon, then it has kedushas domim, and you'd have to be paid it. Good. Halizu carbon, again the same shaila. This talis is a carbon. Im einan nisrefes, if it doesn't get burnt. Yesh lem pidyon, which is an interesting term. Yesh lem pidyon, right? It's either kaddish or not kaddish, right? No. Next, harinitiyas elu carbon ad sheik tzatzu. So now you're saying these netiyas, these Paris guys, should be a carbon until they're cut off. In other words, in the first one, you're saying that what? The first one's saying that what? These are a carbon if they don't get cut off. In other words, there's no chalois. Over here, you're making it chal. Right now, on the tree, it's a carbon until it gets cut off. Right now, on the tree, it's a carbon until it gets cut off. Talizu carbon, if it's a carbon until it gets burnt. But you're saying right now. So what's the din? Ain't lim pidyon. There's no pidyon. Very cryptic Mishnah. Very cryptic. Again, Fred the Gemara, the lisnei kedushais. Why? Just let's go to the first case. Why are you learning yesh lahem pidyon? Isn't the shaila whether it's kaddish or not? Pidyon would be like a second step. Learn it's tell me it's kaddish or not kaddish, right? That tell me it's kaddish or not. Let's see the Ran. The lisnei kedushais. Kachi ikar gersa. In other words, guys, the Ran is not garis this next word's vein kedushais. It says kedushas vein kedushais. The Ran is not garis the word vein kedushais. Says the Ran vachi perushai. Vaday ikar chidusheha the Tana loymar. Vaday the ikar chidush of the Tana is to say she'afa pishet tola kedushasan b'tanai zeh shel ketzitza. He's making it tonight, dependent upon whether it's cut off or not. Kedusha chala aleihem. The kedusha is chal. V'itzterich leashminan hachi. Come on. In other words, what is he saying, guys? He's saying this is a carbon if it doesn't go ahead and fall off. So what's its status right now? It's a carbon. That's the chiddush over here. That is the carbon. So if that's the chiddush, say it's kaddish. Don't say has pidyon. Say it's kaddish. That's the chiddush. So Fred the Gemara, back in the Gemara. Listen to kedusha, even though it's not cut off yet. After the Gemara, I did the boy listen to Sefer Elim Pidyon. Since we had to learn the Sefer Elim Pidyon, we'll see this Gemara tomorrow. Since the Sefer we had to learn Elim Pidyon, Hananami Reisha Yesh Lem Pidyon. Therefore, we learned in the Reisha Yesh Lem Pidyon. So the lashon of what of the Reisha is only because of the Sefer. Now, the second question: Heichi Nodar. Why is the Neder Chal? Since eventually it's going to be cut off, guys. We just said the Ran. It's Kaddish, right? Says the Gemara Kedusha, meaning that even though the Tanai wasn't fulfilled yet, it's Kaddish. Fred the Gemara, why is it Kaddish? What was this Tanai? If it falls off, right? What's his Tanai? The Tanai is that this is a carbon if it doesn't fall off. This is a carbon if it doesn't fall off. It's going to fall off. It's going to fall off. So what's the Metzias over here? Why should it be Kaddish? Hey Chinadar. Hey Chinadar. This should be a carbon if it doesn't fall off. Mashma, if it falls off, it's not a carbon. It's going to fall off. That's what happens to trees. So, you know what he says? If it doesn't fall off today, then it's a carbon. The day passed, and therefore what? Right? So it's partial that what? That the net is chal. What you gave it a time span. What did you say? We just did a little thing. This is a carbon if it doesn't fall off today. Guess what? It didn't fall off today, right? If you leave it open-ended, it's going to fall off. There's no chiddush in that. And if you're telling me that what, so therefore it should be, it should be chal. If you leave it open-ended and you say that this tree should be a carbon if it does until it falls off, when it falls off, it's not a carbon. So right now it should be chal. Yet we say it is chal. So after the Gemara, you know what he said? He said, if it doesn't fall off today, it should be a carbon, and it doesn't fall off today. Says in Pasha, what's the chiddush in the Mishnah? Every throughout the Sefton and Nedarim, you have to have a chiddush, or else what's what he's saying? You have to have a chiddush. Says more like tzricha kigoin the ikka zika nefisha. There's a huge wind. There's a huge wind, and his expectation is that the huge wind is going to take it off. So what does he say? You know what? If it doesn't fall off in this huge wind, it's a carbon. If it doesn't fall off, then that's a chiddush, because the expectation is that it's going to fall off. So he wants to go ahead. So it says the Gemara, but ketoni lagabe talis, the talis the stray for kaimi. In other words, guys, we said two cases. We said that the natural event of it falling off and the talis burning. Talisim don't naturally burn, right? Trees, the payers fall off. They fall off. The branches fall off. The payers fall off. But talisim don't burn. So it says the Gemara. You know what it's speaking about? It's speaking of dika deleka. There's a fire there, right? So hachanami dika zikas nefisha. Now, what does the guy say? He says, "Listen, I'm about to lose this anyway, so I might as well go out, make a kaddish." So therefore, what happens in the end when it doesn't? So you would think you have a heichacha that he really didn't mean it, guys, right? He really didn't mean it. He expected it to fall off. He expected it to be burnt. And long a nest is gevarin, right? A nest happened. So you would think that what? Salka, that thing I would have thought. Adaite Deloy misnatzel. He if he knew it was going to be saved, he would have made the neder, right? That what? No, that the neder is a valid neder, and it's kaddish, and therefore what? You would need yesh opinion, and that's the Reisha and the Sefer. We'll see Bez Hashem tomorrow.